Hey everyone, welcome back to CA Dreams YouTube channel. My name is Somya Agarwal and this is the part 2 of CARO 2020. So in the part number 1, we have discussed the applicability in the exempted classes of companies to which CARO is applicable and to which CARO is not applicable. Right. Now we are going to study that what all matters are to be contained in the audit report. We have studied that under CARO 2020, there is a requirement to report additionally in the audit report. Okay, so it is the additional reporting requirement. So to all those companies to which CARO is applicable, they have to additionally report on some matters. So what are those matters? We are going to discuss it. Okay. So every report made by the auditor under section 143 of the Companies Act and accounts of every company audited by him to which the order applies for the financial year shall in addition contain the matters specified in paragraphs 3 and 4 as may be applicable. So they are saying that to all those companies to which CARO 2020 is applicable, they have to report certain matters in their audit report. And one point is to be remembered here, and that point is that it may be noted that the order shall not apply to the auditor's report on consolidated financial statements except clause 21 of paragraph 3. So they mean to say that you do not need to report anything under CARO 2020 if you are preparing the audit report of consolidated financial statements except clause 21 of paragraph 3. That means only you have to report about clause 21 of paragraph 3, which we will study, and otherwise you do not need to report about any clause if you are preparing the audit report of consolidated financial statements. Okay, so it is a very small point but yet can be asked in MCQ, so you can just mark it important for MCQ. Okay, otherwise for the main content there are basically 21 matters, 21 clauses which you have to report if you are required to report under CARO 2020. So for this, I have prepared one memory technique, and there are basically 3 memory techniques. So in this video, we will discuss this memory technique and probably the clause number 1. Okay, because clause number 1 has 5 more parts, 5 sub parts, so that is why it will require some time to explain. And I'm preparing very short videos, like one video will be for 15 to 20 minutes and not exceeding that, so that it is easy for you also to watch and it is easy for me also to record. Okay, so let's just proceed with the memory technique. So what is this memory technique? You all know a balance sheet. Okay, now here I'm not talking about balance sheet as per schedule number 3. As it is a part of memory technique, I am considering a balance sheet as to be a T-shaped account. Okay, a T-shaped balance sheet we are assuming. So in a T-shaped balance sheet, what you have seen that on the left side there are liabilities and on the right side there are assets. On the left side there are liabilities and on the right side there are assets. Okay, so this memory technique is applicable for clause number 1 to 5, that means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and clause number 9 and 10. Okay, so with the help of this memory technique, you will be able to learn 7 clauses, that means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 9th clause and 10th clause. Okay, so you have to remember a balance sheet, and in the balance sheet on the right side you will find that there are assets. So how is the format prepared? Number 1 are your fixed assets, then are your investments, then are your loans and advances, and then are your current assets, right? So in this way you prepare your balance sheet, a T-shaped balance sheet. Now you all must be aware that FA, fixed assets, is now known as property, plant and equipment. Now we do not call it as fixed assets, we call it as property, plant and equipment. Okay, so number 1 clause will be this clause are the matters. There are 21 clauses, there are 21 matters which you have to report in a CARO 2020, and the first clause which we are talking about is your PPE, that is your property, plant and equipment. Now in the balance sheet, you have seen that first of all you show the fixed assets and then you also show the intangible assets. If the company has some intangible assets, then those intangible assets are also shown below the category of fixed assets only. Okay, so always remember that whenever you read the term PPE in terms of CARO I'm talking about, whenever you read the term PPE, property, plant and equipment, you have to remember intangible assets also. Okay, so first clause is your property, plant and equipment. Now the second clause is your inventory. So in the current assets you will find inventory. So second clause is your inventory. Then your third clause will talk about investments. Fourth clause will talk about loans and advances, and fifth clause will talk about deposits. Okay, so first clause property, plant and equipment. Along with property, plant and equipment, we will discuss about intangible assets. Second clause inventory. Third clause investments. Fourth clause loans and advances, and fifth clause deposits. Okay, you will gradually learn the clause numbers along with the name when you will repeatedly revise. But for now, let's just remember all the names first. After that, you can remember the number along with the name. Okay, so first name, first clause is your property, plant and equipment. Second is inventory. Third is investments. Fourth is loans and advances, and fifth clause talks about your deposits. Okay, in this video I'm telling you the whole memory technique only. Then after this, what you can do is we can move to the 9th and 10th clause. After this, you can move to the 9th and 10th clause. So this 9th clause will talk about your borrowings. That means all the borrowings which the company has taken. All the borrowings which the company has taken. As an auditor, you have to report about that. Then your 10th clause will talk about the company's fund. That means is its company's own fund, or the company has taken some debentures or issued some IPOs, FPOs. Okay, all this initial public offer and that. Okay, so here we will, in 10th clause we will talk about the company's funds, that how the companies has issued the funds. Okay, then the second memory technique will be about clause number 6 to 16. Clause number 6 to 16. So what is it? It is about a girl whose name is Nidhi. Okay, now this is one story. There's one girl, Nidhi, and what does she do? She maintains cost records of statutory dues and unrecorded income, so that she's working in our company. And what does she do? Nidhi is a girl. She is working in a company, and what does she do? She maintains cost records. Cost records about any statutory due is there or not, any unrecorded income is there or not. Why does she do so? She does because to prevent fraud. To prevent fraud, her relative was a NRI, and her relative was a NRI. Okay, so Nidhi is a girl who is working in any company. She maintains cost record to prevent fraud. To prevent fraud. Cost records of statutory dues and unrecorded income. And Nidhi's relative was a NRI. Nidhi's relative was a NRI. Nidhi's relative was a NRI. Okay, so clause number 6 talks about your cost records. Clause number 7 talks about your statutory dues. Clause number 8 will talk about your unrecorded income. Then clause number 9 will talk about where is clause number 9? Yeah, okay. 6 to 16 in this, 9th and 10th is in this only, na, first memory technique. So 9 and 10 are not there. Okay, then clause number 11 will talk about fraud. Then clause number 12 will talk about Nidhi companies. Then clause number 13 will talk about related parties. And clause number 14, 15 and 16 will talk about NRI. Now what is this NRI? Let me just show you. I am just showing you the memory technique. Okay, 13, 14 and 15. What is 13, 14 and 15? I for internal audit, N for non-cash transactions, and R for Reserve Bank of India. Okay, NRI, NRI, N for non-cash transactions, then R for Reserve Bank of India, and I for internal audit. So this is NRI 14, 15 and 16. Okay, so what is the second memory technique? Second memory technique is for clause number 6 to 16, and out of this 9th and 10th are in first memory technique only. Okay, जो क्लॉज नंबर 6 to 16 है उसके लिए मेमोरी टेक्निक है. क्या मेमोरी टेक्निक है? निधि मेंटेन्ड कॉस्ट रिकॉर्ड्स ऑफ statutory dues, and unrecorded income to prevent fraud, and her relative is a NRI. What is NRI? N for non-cash transactions, R for Reserve Bank of India, and I for internal audit. Do not worry, I will make you learn this memory technique when we will discuss the clauses in detail. But for now, I'm just telling you the memory technique which I am going to use in the further videos. Okay, so with the help of this, you will be able to learn clause names up to clause number 16. Now, for clause number 17 to 21, there is another memory technique. Now, this Nidhi, she used to maintain cost records. Okay, now what happened? In the company in which she was working, there was some unspent amount. There was some unspent amount, and the company faced huge cash losses. And seeing the financial ratios of that company, the auditors gave adverse report and resigned. So there was a company, suppose PQR Limited. Nidhi was working in PQR Limited. So what happened in that company, after some time it was found that there was unspent income and the company faced huge cash losses, and seeing the financial ratios, the auditors gave adverse report and resigned. They resigned. Okay, so what is this about? This is about clause number 17, we will discuss about cash losses. Clause number 18, we will discuss about resignation. Clause number 19, we will discuss about financial ratios. In clause number 20, we will discuss about unspent income. And in clause number 21, we will discuss about adverse report. Okay. So this is how we are going to proceed with the matters. So this is how we are going to proceed with the matters. Okay. Now let's just quickly revise all the clause names. Okay. So clause number 1 will talk about your property, plant and equipment. And clause number, along with property, plant and equipment, intangible assets will also be there. Okay. Then clause number 2 will talk about your inventory. Third clause, investments. Fourth clause, loans and advances, and fifth clause will talk about deposits. In the first memory technique only there are two more clauses, and that is ninth is your borrowings, 10th is your company's fund. Okay, then let's shift to the another memory technique that was about clause number 6 to 16. Okay, so in this, what was the story? Nidhi was a girl, she was working in a company, she used to maintain cost records of statutory dues and unrecorded income to prevent fraud, and her relative were NRI. So what was the sixth clause? Sixth clause was about cost records. Seventh was about statutory dues. Eighth clause was about unrecorded income. Ninth clause, 10th clause we have already studied in memory technique 1. 11th clause was about fraud. 12th clause was about Nidhi. 13th clause was about relative party. 14, 15, 16, NRI. 14, 15, 16. So what is the 14th clause? 14th clause is about your internal audit. Then 15th clause is about your non-cash transaction. 16th clause is about RBI. Okay, now 17 to 21. 17 to 21. So 17th is about cash loss. 18th is about resignation. 19th is about financial ratios. 20 is about unspent income, and 21 is about adverse report. Okay. So do not worry, you will learn the clause names in a sequence when we will discuss the clauses in detail. But for now, I hope that you have learned all the clauses numbers. Okay, and this memory technique will be more clear when you will understand it. So from the next video, we will start with the explanation part, because if I will include the matter number 1, the clause number 1 in this video, then it might become lengthy, because it is a very lengthy clause. Okay, so that is why we will freshly start it in another part. Okay, so for now I'm ending it here, and I hope that you could get benefited out of it. And if you really liked the video, then please do share my video and do consider pressing the like button. Okay, so ending the video here and thanking you.